This is what more than a year's worth of pickles looks like. Well, I guess if you eat a ton of pickles, maybe this is less than a year or right at a year, but for us, where we don't eat a ton, this is more than a year's worth, and we will definitely be giving a bunch of these jars away. Hey friends, welcome back to today's video. It is all about pickles today. So this is my first year having a real garden and producing a lot of vegetables. So the first thing that started producing were our pickling cucumbers, and so I made a ton of pickles. So I just wanted to share with y'all a little bit of the process and some things that I learned, and just I'll link all the recipes that I used down below because I wanted to try several different ones out to see which ones my family liked the most, so I know for next year which recipe to use. The first recipe that I tried out, and we only made 2 jars of this, was some refrigerator pickles. And we have tried these already. I think I'm going to let them sit a little bit longer. To me, they taste a little bit sweeter, like more like bread and butter pickles, and I think the reason is because I used apple cider vinegar. I thought I was making dill pickles, but maybe, I mean, there is dill in this, so I think there's dill, yeah, there is garlic, and then there's black peppercorns, and then of course the cucumbers, and then the brine, which I'm pretty sure consisted of apple cider vinegar, water, and pickling salt. Did it have pickling salt? I think actually I may have only used sea salt for this one because I hadn't picked up any of my supplies yet. I was not a fan of these, like I said, because they were sweeter. I like dill pickles, so I don't know. We're going to let them sit a little bit longer and try them again and see if we like these. They were very, very, very easy though. The next recipe that I tried, which we have the most of these jars, there's 4, 8, 13 of these jars, so I just labeled it dill pickle number 1 because I tried 2 dill pickle recipes. This recipe was pretty simple as well. It uses white vinegar, so I'm thinking these will be more tasting like dill. I have not tried any of the other ones yet. It's really just garlic, fresh dill, and then the brine, which I'm pretty sure was white vinegar, water, and then pickling salt. So very, very simple. I actually this was the first time I canned, and I was really, really happy. All of my jars sealed, and then of course I'm storing them without the ring on, so I can just make sure that they're all stayed sealed, and then I can catch some if they come unsealed. So we haven't tried any of these yet. I'm very excited. These ones are spears, but we did, because we were getting so many cucumbers, I did start picking them smaller. So then there are some that have like smaller pickles in them, which I actually like best. So I'll probably be keeping a couple of the smaller pickle jars. And then I tried a second recipe, so I just put dill pickle number 2, and then of course the date on all of them. And these labels actually will just wash right off with water, I'm pretty sure. So very, very easy. This was a very easy recipe, and we'll see how it turns out. As you can see, there's nothing really extra. These are some of the seasonings and I guess seeds. I don't know. This was the pre-packaged dill pickle salt, dill pickling salt. It's like, like the package that goes from the store. And you just put that with, I'm pretty sure, vinegar and water. I'll have to look that up. I won't really have a recipe to link for that because I just followed the directions that were on the back of the packet. So we'll see what this looks like. Obviously this is more greenish because my husband looked at the other ones. He was like, why isn't it green or yellow? I was like, I don't know, use white vinegar, I'm not sure. So then the last recipe that I tried, which, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of bread and butter pickles, but my father-in-law is, and we're doing the garden, me and my mother-in-law, and then I think my mom even said that she likes bread and butter pickles as well, so I'll be giving away all of these except for one jar. I'm just going to try one ourselves for our family. This was quite the process, so unless I super love these, I probably will not be canning these next year. Although I am kind of a fan of like slicing them up and putting them in smaller jars. Like I said, we don't eat a ton of pickles, so having smaller jars to open and use just this little amount instead of a big amount is a good thing that I think for our family. So this was like a whole process. I had to cut the cucumbers, onions, and garlic, and then put them with salt and like a towel and ice and put it in the fridge for 3 hours, and then take them out, rinse them off, make the brine, put them in the brine with some more seasonings, I think, and then cook those for like just a couple of minutes, then spoon them all into the jars and then can them. So it was a bit more of a process than the dill pickles. So we shall see how they taste. I mean, I gotta hand it to myself. I think it looks pretty good, right? So I was lucky to find fresh dill in our grocery store, and then of course garlic. But if I had thought about it ahead of time, I would have grown dill in our garden and tried to grow garlic. I think garlic takes a lot longer to grow, so I have to check that out. But I'm hoping that I'll get some dill seeds from my grandma and I'll be able to grow dill and garlic next year, because this was a super easy recipe, and it uses fresh ingredients. And if I'm able to grow all of the ingredients, except for the vinegar and the salt myself, then that would be really good. For my first time canning, I did take quite a long time to do the first full batch of pickles. It was just a learning experience, and I did get faster as I went on and did several more batches. My huge water bath canner that we got, I am very happy with it, and so glad that we decided to invest in this. It is a little bit more of an investment than the regular round water bath canners. And then really, if you don't even want to do that and you want to try out just to begin with, you can get a kit to use with just a pot that you already, like a big pot that you already have, which comes with a rack that you put on the bottom of your pot to keep airflow underneath the cans as it's canning. And then it comes with the bubble remover, and then the funnel, and then the canner lifter, because you do really need the canner lifter. The bubble remover, you could probably just use a fork or a knife or butter knife or something. And then a funnel, I would definitely have a funnel. I got this set that has the measurements, the headspace measurements on the funnel. Am I saying that right? The funnel? And I love that thing. Instead of having to check with just the little stick, It is so much easier. This set of 3 things was $20, but again, I think it was so worth it to be able to get. We are still getting cucumbers on our cucumber plants. Like we did all of this. We've already eaten some fresh, and there have been some that we let go too long that we had to just compost, but there are still more coming up. I probably won't can anymore, and we'll just try to eat them fresh. Like today, I've got a batch that I'm going to be cutting up and putting in a salad. So I won't be canning any more pickles this season, but I am very happy with the experience that I got for my first time. Oh gosh, I'm telling you, it brings so much joy to grow your own food, be able to harvest it, eat it, and then preserve it for later for your family. It's just, for me, an amazing feeling. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm calling it garden joy. That's the joy that I have, garden joy. The process for dill pickle number 1 recipe, that's what I'm calling it, was pretty simple. I just, peeled a thing of garlic, put that in the bottom, washed my dill, put a dill, like a whole dill stalk, I don't know, is the sprig? I think that's like the stem, the sprig, and the leaves down in the bottom, and then I cut off the blossom end of the cucumber, and if they were small I just left them whole, and then if they were bigger I cut them into spears and packed the jars full. Then at the top of the jar I put a little more dill in, and then added the brine, which the brine consisted of white vinegar, water, and pickling salt. Before I stuffed the jars, I did sanitize them in my water bath canner, and then of course removed all of the air bubbles. For pickles, I left a 1/2 inch headspace, and then removed the bubbles, wiped the rim, and then got from the hot water, because I had my lid sitting in hot water or warm water, and put the lid on, and then twisted the rings on just fingertip tight. And so that whole process, the 1/2 inch, removing the air bubbles, wiping off the rim, putting on the lid, and then putting the rim on fingertip tight, that is the same for all of them. And then I let it process for the time that it calls for in the recipe. Like I said, I will link them all down below. For dill pickle number 2 recipe, it was very easy because I just got a packet from the store and then followed the instructions to make the brine that I was putting over the pickles. I prepared the pickles the same exact way. I washed them and got all of the spikes off of them, cut off the blossom end, left the smaller ones whole, and then the bigger ones I cut into spears, packed them in the jar, and then did the whole finishing process and then canned them. After removing them, it's very satisfying if you can catch the cans, like the lids popping. I was only able to do this a few times because I really just removed them and then just let them sit and went and did a whole bunch of other stuff because mom life. The refrigerator pickles were pretty easy as well. I just followed the directions and put all the ingredients in with the cucumbers, and then I let them sit in the fridge for at least a week. I am gonna let them sit longer, more like 2 or 3 weeks before we try them again. And then the bread and butter pickles. Quite a process, so I had to prepare the pickles the same way. washing all the spikes off, and then I cut off both ends and then sliced the pickles. I also had to slice some onions and peel some garlic, and then I put all of that in a bowl with a towel, with pickling salt, with a towel over it, and then ice. Let that sit for 3 hours. Then I rinsed off all of that, and I added them to the brine that I was making, and that had white vinegar, water, and then several different seasonings. I think mustard seed, dill seed, and something else. And then I had to add that all the cucumbers, onions, and garlic into that. Let them cook for just a few minutes, and then ladle them into the jars. Got all the air bubbles out, wiped the rims. Same thing, is still a 1/2 inch headspace, and then put the lids on, the rings, and then process them in the canner. Thank you all so much for joining me for today's video and learning about pickles and just going on this process of the first time for me growing and pickling cucumbers. It's been super, super fun, and I can't wait to do more.